turns out his wife actually came onto the place and just had a temper tantrum, talking about how he turned her husband into an asshole. It was actually kind of funny.
The following program contains scenes of
I only date 9s or 10s, bro.
Viewer discretion is advised.
I'm 36, she's 34. We've been married 8 years, together for 10, lived together for a year before getting hitched. We have 2 kids, and she's a good mom. We actually have a pretty good sex life. I guess I'm lucky in that we're compatible, and she just likes sex. Found the red pill a year and a half ago, been feeling pissed and frustrated at work and at home, and I'd just seen my best friend screwed over by his wife, cheated on, and then divorce raped. So the red pill stuff resonated with me. I realized I've been screwing things up my entire life by being a nice guy who needed emotional validation while blaming others for my problems. I also admitted to myself that I was basically a lazy mother in general. I was holding me back from being successful at work and enjoying my life, so I decided to man up. I read No More Mr. Nice Guy and spent a lot of the time on Rational Male, Red Pill Room, sometimes lurking on the married and the red pills. I started lifting, dressing better, working on my social skills by striking up conversations with random people and flirting with women as much as possible. I reconnected with my buds and started hanging out with them a couple times a week. I'm doing this for myself and cultivating an I don't give a fuck attitude, and if these things are inconvenient for my wife, so be it. It's been paying off in a lot of ways. Taking on more responsible, standing out more at work, got a small promotion, taking care of things around the house. Instead of asking the wife to call a plumber, I'm spending more time with the kids, taking them places, teaching them stuff, and I'm getting more attention from women, and that's been a revelation for me as I never thought I was very attractive. So here's where my wife comes in. She is drop dead gorgeous. When we met, she had just quit a career in modeling and had been earning enough from that to put herself through college. And even at 34, she gets tons of male attention, and guys have hit on her right in front of me, knowing we were together. So before the red pill, I did the typical beta thing, put her on a pedestal, bent her over backwards to make her happy, and although she's beautiful and intelligent, she has low self-esteem, and I basically became a validation faucet for her. And I got the validation of being the average-looking dude with the smoking hot wife. So I've decided it's time to end all that, and it's slowly killing my one-itis. I'm showing my wife what an attractive man with options and important stuff can do. I'm the prize. I'm not her validation faucet. I'm not dependent on her either. I love her, and I love my kids, and I want to lead us to better things, but she's insecure and strong-willed, and now that she's learned about this, she's lost her mind. It's like one big hamster in there, like I'm under a microscope, and she always thinks that I'm wanting to leave her or trying to trick her with some tactic. Sometimes I get the, oh, you think you're being alpha? And it's so infuriating. So her finding out about this place was an extreme screw-up on my part, and I don't know where to go from here. Do any of you guys have experience with the wife finding about the married red pill and fighting you over it? Couple of terms before we get started. The first one is the mirror. In this situation, and I kind of have some background on this because we had a fairly lengthy back and forth a few weeks ago. It turns out, or a few weeks before this one came out, it turns out his wife actually came onto the place and just had a temper tantrum, talking about how he turned her husband into an asshole. It was actually kind of funny. Ask some of the old guys who have been around a couple years ago about Vampire Squidina, I think was her username. It's since been deleted. But it was essentially that. And we kind of caught on to that. We realized that a lot of these problems that she was having was because he was doing it all for her, showing how he didn't give a fuck, how he had abundance, how he had stopped seeking validation from her, but he was still seeking her validation on that he no longer needed his validation. And the problem is, that comes across as just being a dick. Simply put. In fact, Jack actually quoted a thing, and I'll read from it here. I'm just going to give you an I told you so. His wife was freaking out about him acting like an ass because he's acting like an ass. This is not about leadership or submission or control or anxiety. This is just someone who spent too much time reading the stuff by the 23-year-old single guys on the main sub. Probably because you're still choked that you've had less than 5 women in your life because you had way too much nonsense in your past. And that's kind of summing it up here and why the mirror is such a big deal. He starts to make some success, and you notice he made that quote line about women are finding me attractive now, and I had no idea. A lot of guys have this fear of having missed out, and then they realize they could have had a lot more fun in their youth, even though the girl most likely had more fun than them. They were okay with it when they thought there was nothing they could do about it, but then when they find out there's something you can do about it, and they fix themselves, they end up resenting the wife, because she is the culmination of the failures in his life. And instead of blaming yourself for wasting those last couple years and then moving forward with your head held high, What a lot of guys do is then they look at her and like, this is your fault. You did this to me. It's funny though, with narcissism, everything is about us except for blame. Women finding your red pill. This one is so common and it lets you know which guys don't have frame yet. So I'll let you in on a little secret. Even if your girl knows everything here, if you've read everything, watched everything, if she's done everything you've done, it still doesn't change things. Red pill is like makeup. Even when you know it's there, it still works. And for a guy who's so worried about this, you can tell there's two things that it comes from. One, he's worried that the girl will reject him and think that, oh, you're just going to do some weird tips and tricks. And then she's going to leave. And it's that fear of rejection. Second thing is he thinks it has to be some kind of low-key woman haters club, and then it's kind of embarrassing because, oh, I had to learn this stuff from a book. I should have just naturally known it. Look, whatever. None of that stuff matters. I had something I want to work on, so I go find out some material to learn how to work on it better. If it was an auto mechanics manual, nobody would bat an eyebrow. But because the girl thinks it's all about her, she naturally has to freak out. And this is why you need to have frame on these things. And like I said, it's not about the girl. It's about fixing all your crap. And the girl just will come along or she won't, but it's a nice to have, but it's tangential to the entire process. And then once you get to that point, you realize you can leave a rational male book lying on the coffee table without a care in the world because she's going to read it and she's going to get mad or she's not, but nothing changes. Purpose is the other one. So this guy kind of had an idea what he wanted here, where he realized he wasn't happy. He had a whole bunch of nice guy behaviors, and he saw the writing on the wall with his friend's failed marriage, knowing that his could be just as bad and it's probably something he should work on. But he never really thought through the implications of this, and most guys don't. In fact, most guys, and this is where I want you to kind of take a lesson from this description here, is that their purpose in life isn't clear until they're well underway finding a different purpose in life that they find out is absolute bunk. Makes sense. If you tell a guy in the middle of like the worst time of his life, here man, move forward with your options. He will pick a direction that makes no sense into a future man of value, but it'll make tons of sense from that desperate guy now. It's something I've been saying since I very first decided to show my face and talk about this cringe stuff online. You don't know what you want, so your options and your best solution here is to build up as much abundance and as much value as you can. Give that guy 12 months from now, give him all of those gifts, and he can make the hard decisions. So it's funny, our advice for this guy, and we spent a lot of time. First off, our advice for his wife was to calm the F down. She completely lost her mind, blamed everybody else for this stuff. She just didn't know what to do with any of this, because she was thrown a complete curveball. The guy she dated completely changed overnight, and she didn't know why. She had technically not done anything wrong either. It was his insecurities that kind of grated on him, and it was something he needed to work on. In this case, adding a couple comfort tests to this, making this more deliberate, and then dealing with those demons in his past, especially the one where he realized he had missed out on his youth, right there would have been an easy solution to this. And as far as I can tell, things went off well because neither one of them had complained since, and it turns out just some open air communication. And I know it sounds weird to talk about communication, but in this case, it was one of those situations where just a comfort test and letting her know the roadmap here would have been an easy way for her to latch on to it. And for an anxious girl who's got a lot of self-esteem issues, it's probably one of the easier ways to go through things, so long as she trusts you. But it looks like here, I mean, their life wasn't bad beforehand, so it wasn't a case where he had to build up that captain first officer mentality. So this one matters for you because a lot of guys get into these problems usually midway through if they come from a particularly bad relationship system, or if they're one that's not half bad and they just want to fix up the things and shore up against possible damage later. There's a role for communication, and it's not when you're too stupid to handle it. Once you've got your act together, shit tests and comfort tests, the need to give somebody comfort and the need to give somebody desire, those things are very, very intuitive and easy, but If you're at a stage where you have a decent amount of desire, but your comfort isn't up to par, it can run into its own set of problems, and in this case, massive amounts of anxiety. Now, anxiety can be a good thing, is that it's a very erogenous emotion for girls to have. The fear of missing out, pre-selection, all kind of based on it. But like with everything, it's contextual. She already has the desire for him, so just throwing on more anxiety without any of the accompanying comfort isn't really the best way to keep relationships going. All you're doing is creating anxiety for the sake of it. Again, it's just like anything. Too much of it is not good. Just enough is perfect. So this stuff matters for you because you got to learn calibration. How much of this do you want? What is the aim of what you're trying to achieve? And are the actions you're taking right now having that effect? In this case, he just wanted to get over the fact that he missed out on his youth and he was comfortable with where his life was, but he wanted to come to terms with that without resenting his wife for it. Great. Now you have to apply that to your immediate situation. Most guys will make issues like this. You may make them as well. It's good every now and then just to take some reflection, realize what you've done, and realize where you're going, and then take actions as a... The alternative for this is pretty straightforward. You run through these calibration processes and you keep your eyes open. In this case, he realized he was being too much of a nice guy. It was costing him at work. It might have costed him his marriage, and he wanted to make some effort on it beforehand. So he starts doing that. He knows his wife is very anxious. She starts throwing some anxiety at him. Maybe pepper it in. A comfort test one day, nuking the comfort test the next day. Some days give more, some days give less, keeping things fresh and exciting. So by this constant stream of never quite having him 100%, but being comfortable in the way that a girl who has, 2 children wants to have, you're actually going to help foster a good relationship that once the kids get older, you have a base of attraction to work with. Because we all know the eat, pray, love epiphany phase. Once a girl realizes that being a parent isn't enough to hold the relationship together, the kids become self-sufficient, they're gone for 8 hours a day, and she starts longing for desire and those alpha qualities again, well, then it's very easy to go from these comfort and fitness tests back and forth between the alpha and beta side, and then lean more heavily on your alpha qualities. In this case, be a little more aloof, a little more muscular, a little more, all those things that make you more attractive. And this is a great alternative because then you start to become deliberate in your actions and you're aware of the effect that you have on the world around you. Again, it's not that you're doing these to get the other people's approval. It's not like you're doing them because you expect a certain result, but you just know what effect your actions have on the world. And if you want a more comfortable relationship, you act with more comfort. If you want a more sexually charged relationship, you act in that way. And if the other person isn't on board, well, then you always have the abundance to move on to something else. But these alternatives, it all depend on what you want. And as soon as you figure that out, that 12 months after you've decided that you're going to work on these problems that you had, and you defer that to the guy 12 months from now who realized, okay, now that I have these abundance options, what do I do with it? You're going to be far better off. And so with that, I leave you to it. Enjoy it. Another relationship breakdown. Again, come on in, check out Patreon when you get a sec. It's going to be good. We don't charge to the end of the month, and we deal with these relationship problems in situ. We got a large, thriving community, and I guarantee you'll like it. So on that note, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Cheers. Charles Bukowski, Jordan Peterson, Neil Strauss. I like these guys. Add some salt to cover up the bitterness of middle-aged soccer moms and put in the oven for 45 minutes.